Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Wonderland's War, designed by Tim Eisner, Ben Eisner, and Ian Moss, and published by Druid City Games and Skybound Games. This is a fully sleeved deluxe edition copy of the game with no lid lift that's organized to get gameplay started as soon as possible. If you have any questions or comments about what you see here, please let me know in the comments section below, and for links to anything I talk about here, please take a look in the description of the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. Let's get started organizing Wonderland's War, the Deluxe Edition. Before we begin, I do want to make a quick mention about promos and additional content for the game. Inside of the box, we do have all of the deluxe chips, as well as the promo cards for the game, the things that are actually used during the game, but things like the art book and the art prints we don't actually store inside. There is actually room for them inside of the box with no lid lift, so if you do want to store them in there, you may. However, we don't because they don't actually serve a function during gameplay, but you're definitely welcome to store them in if you'd like. And the last thing I want to mention are these Standees. You're welcome to use these in place of the miniatures for the game, but seeing as we are using the miniatures, I found that we don't actually keep these in the box because they just take up room. One more thing you got put in and take out. But they do actually fit into the container. If you have a little bit of a longer bag, you're going to store nicely in this bottom section here, or you can actually put them in the wells where we're storing the madness shards. It's up to you if you want to keep these in the box, but we've elected to keep them outside. All that out of the way, let's lift off the lid here, and inside you'll see that we have some of the miniatures on top. Game Trays does a nice job of helping store the miniatures for the game. We've actually kept a lot of the storage here. We've only made some slight modifications to the very bottom tray that's going to store the cards and some of the player components. However, the castle tray here, you'll just simply lift off this lid, put to the side, and it'll be a bank for you to populate the board with castles. You don't actually need to pass these out to each player because you're only going to summon them when certain players win combats. So just take the lid off and put it to the side. In this next miniatures tray, we have all of our Wonderlandians, our leaders, and our madness shards. We got our 5s and our 1s. Go ahead and populate these based on the player count to whoever's first, second, third, fourth, etc. We also have our starting battle marker, and then our leaders. We have Alice, Cheshire Cat, the Mad Hatter, the Red Queen, and the Jabberwocky. We also have some of the more awkward shaped miniatures down here, but everything else actually fits into the same wells. Game Trays does a good job of making sure you don't have to actually find a specific spot for them. The only hint I do have is to make sure to keep Tweedledee and Tweedledum together because they look a little bit like the Humpty Dumpty figure here. But you can just place this to the side of the table because when you need a specific Wonderlandians miniature, you can take them from here as well as have access to those madness shards. Underneath all your miniatures, you have your chip tray. And I have to commend Game Trays here again because I think that this chip tray does an excellent job with actually storing and displaying all of your different chips. In our chip tray, we have all of the tools of the Wonderlandians on the sides here. They're separated so that you have the pair of them in each, and when a card calls for them, you can take them from here instead of having to populate the board. The next up, we have all of our different ally chips. You have all of your level 1s down here, and then all of your level 2s in this upper area. This way, you're starting off with your weaker chips, and then as you get into the second and third tea parties, you'll have access to those bigger chips usually. Up next, we have all of your level 1 forge chip allies, and then all of your 1 madness. You're going to populate your bags with these throughout the game, so it's nice to have them here with the rest of your chips. We've got 2 silica gel packets in here for freshness, as well as the shard die, put that at the head of the tea party table. And you also have these tokens that can block off the 4 and 5 player spots at the tea party, so you remember not to refill them with cards. We've got an art token here. There are some that come with the punch boards for the different games that Skybound and Druid City Games have made, like Tidal Blades as well as Wonderland's War. I like this one, but totally superfluous. And the last piece of cardboard are our victory point for combat tokens. You'll put these into the different areas in the game, marking how many victory points you get for winning the battle based on the round that you're in. So in the first round, it's only 2 points, but in that last round, this area will be worth 12 points. Let's put that cardboard back, and the last thing I want to talk about are these poison chips. The Jabberwock in particular has these poison chips that you'll have a number of them equal to the number of players plus 2. The reason I have them up here instead of in the Jabberwock's bag is to just make that distinction that there is a bit of setup that you have to do, especially for new players if they're unfamiliar with the amount of Jabberwock tokens they'll be using. We'll put those poison tokens back, and that's everything in the deluxe chip tray. We'll remove the deluxe chip tray box out of the way, and underneath you'll see that we have the rulebook for the game. Underneath the rules, you have a reference for the war phase, including battles and the end of the war, just some reminders on iconography and keywords as well. Keep this nearby for your first couple of games. And then our player boards with 2 different sides, multiplayer, as well as your specific 2-player side, marked by this little indicator here. Pass those out to the player that's using that leader. Underneath the player boards, we have the game board. And that brings us to the bottom section of our insert. Starting off with our standard size cards, we have 2 stacks of quest cards. You'll make sure to shuffle those, deal 2 to each player so they can pick their starting quest. And then our wager cards for the different leaders. Just pass that full set to each player, and then they'll go ahead and remove any players that are not participating in the game. Those are all the standard size sleeved cards in the game, and for those, we use the Ultra Pro Matte Deck Protector sleeves. I love the matte finish, I love the way they handle and feel, and shuffle, so I do recommend these anytime we're using standard size sleeves. Once again, a link in the description of the video for anything that I talk about here. Underneath the standard size sleeve, we have all of our tarot-sized cards. These include all of your Wonderlandians, and you're going to shuffle those up and reveal 3. These include those different chips that were available in our storage container, as well as miniatures for the different characters and Wonderlandians that'll fight by your side. Now, one quick thing, there were some additional promo cards that were released for the game, and these promos are going to be these 5 specific characters. Now, they are alternate art, but also have alternate effects, so depending on what you want to do, you'll be playing with one or the other sets, not both at the same time. So pick 5 that you will not be using for the Griffin, the March Hare, the White Rabbit, the Duchess, and the Unicorn, and then leave the other 5 to the side. When you're ready to swap or mix and match, you're welcome to at any time. And the rest of our tarot-sized cards include our allies and player aids. We have references for the Tea Party turns as well as the War phase, and then you have all of your different ally chips. The Forge is on top here because we will always use it, but then you have different sets based on this letter here. You have all your A sets for your weak and your strong allies, and B, C, and D, and then you have these reference cards here that tell you what the different chips do based on the set you're playing, marked by the letter in the upper right corner. So they're double-sided for A and B, and then you have your C and Ds in the back here. For our tarot-sized cards, we use the Arcane Tinman board game sleeves. They're matte finish tarot sleeves that shuffle well, handle well, and I really love their matte finish. I do recommend these sleeves for any of your tarot-sized cards. And that brings us to our last size of sleeve cards. These are your mini European sleeved cards. These are all for the Tea Party phase, and they're going to show the different rewards that you'll get. You have the number of units you can summon, the chips you earn, and if you have to roll the dice or not. There are some cards that are this weird gray color, and that means that they have a secondary option that you can get in addition to the other option, but you'll have to roll the dice to do so. But you can choose to pick one or both, but it's up to you based on if you're willing to roll that die. For the mini European sleeves, I've been using the Game Plus products. Once again, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find sleeves for your game. I really appreciate the thickness of these sleeves. Our other 2 Tea Party decks are the same. They're just going to escalate in power based on which era they're from. We have our 2s and our 3. So those are all of the cards in the game. Let's talk about the individual player components. So you're going to toss each player a bag based on which leader they decide to play as. For example, if you have someone playing the Mad Hatter, toss them it and they'll dump this entire bag out in front of them. I'm only going to go through one of the bags because all of the others are organized similarly. First off, you're going to make sure that you have your shield token, all of your followers for your different character, your plus 50 and your plus 100 marker, and then your battle track marker. Each player is also going to have 6 of these circular trackers, 4 for upgrades, 1 for your hero strength, and 1 for victory points. And then you're going to have these Universal Madness 1 tokens, 1 Madness 2 token, and then 1 Forge ally chip. And lastly, you're going to have all of your starting chips, including 6 of your personalized artifact chips, all based on your color, as well as 3 level 1 starting chips and a level 2 starting chip. All of the player bags are stored this way, and as you've seen, I've actually trimmed the original insert to be able to roll them up and fit them in this small square here. Now, the reason that I've gone with this bagged up storage method instead of using the provided rows and columns in the insert has to do with all of the wooden pieces. Each of them had their own specific column that you had to store them in specifically. It was really tedious to get going as well as for putting away, having to make sure that each one fit in its specific area. With this method, cleanup is a breeze by just putting all your tokens in the bag, and setup is also easy. Just pass the bag to their player, and they have all of the components they need to get ready to go. You also fit in perfectly in this area here while retaining your organization for all the different sleeved cards. And that's everything inside of Wonderland's War. Let's go ahead and pack it up. First off, let's put that Mad Hatter bag in this upper area here. We'll then put all of our Wonderlandian and all of our allies and reference cards here in this right section, followed by our standard size wager cards as well as a split deck of quest cards, 1 in this middle section and 1 in this bottom section. We then have all of our Tea Party cards inside, like so. On top of all the cards and bags of player components, we have our game board, our player boards and reference card, and then our rulebook. We then have our deluxe chip tray, like so. Our Wonderlandian leader miniatures, as well as our different madness shards, and our lid with our castle miniatures on top. And that's organizing Wonderland's War, the Deluxe Edition. If you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comments below. How do you organize your copy of Wonderland's War? What do you think of Wonderland's War so far? Did you get the Deluxe Edition or the retail edition of the game? What do you think of the different leaders and who is your favorite? Have you had a chance to read any of the story in the accompanying book here? We'd love to know what you think. But thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.